Welcome, welcome, shalom, shalom, world changers. Tonight we're going to get back into some more of the Apocrypha, First Maccabees chapters 5 through 8. So another 4 chapters tonight. Last night was a very interesting night reading the first 4 chapters of Maccabees and First Maccabees, that is, and interacting with you guys in the live chat. So, anyways, tonight we are going to continue off where we left last night. I see in the chat here we have Tammy says shalom all. Shalom, Tammy. Good to see you. Welcome. Billy says shalom. Shalom. Shalom, Billy. Calamentos says shalom, everyone. Shalom, Calamentos. Shalom, shalom. Tammy says she was the first tonight. Wow, congratulations. And Billy says he was the first. He's already hit the like button. Yes, and please hit the like button if you haven't already. Thank you very much. Vinny says shalom, everyone. Shalom, Vinny. Good to see you. Welcome. Great Deception says shalom, everyone. Shalom, brother. Good to see you. Welcome. And we have Psalm 94. Says shalom, everyone. Good to see you. Shalom, shalom. Corey says shalom, everyone. Shalom, Corey. Good to see you. And we have Vita says shalom all. Shalom, Vita. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so we are going to get into First Maccabees chapters 5 through 8. Vita says, Elohim bless you all. Elohim bless you more, Vita. Thank you very much. And Mo, I believe this would be Mo Jr. 14 says, hi, I'm new to this. Hi, welcome. Good to see you. Welcome. Corey says, quick, tongue is tied here. Quick question. Is it possible we will ever get Christians, non-Torah observants, to convert to the truth, or will they just wait for the last minute? Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure most of us began there. So, I mean, hey, I mean, it happened to all of us. I'm sure it could happen to at least some of them. So, yeah, I think it is very possible for them to to convert to the truth, as you put it. I think that one of the greatest factors is, again, humility. You know, for them to be able to humble themselves enough to say, you know what, I'll hear you out. I'll listen to you and I'll consider it. I could be wrong. You know, that kind of humility always finds the truth. Okay. When you get someone who is very like, okay, I know the truth already, and, I know there's nothing, basically, there's nothing you can say that can change my mind. That's a dangerous spot to be in, because that's very, that can be a place of pride where it's like, I know everything about it, everything, I know everything, so therefore there's nothing that will change my mind. Well, you know what, I think we should be a little bit more humble, and I think that's what a lot of Christians should do. They need to humble themselves. They need to come down and admit, hey, you know what, my church might be wrong, my denomination might be wrong, I might have believed something that wasn't true. And so perhaps I need to reassess. I look at it like this. It's like an artist. We need to be like an artist, our spiritual canvas, so to speak. Or if you are a music artist, like I've done some amateur music work as well. And, you're always recording and you are always reassessing, listen to the recording. Oh, I see this, this can be fixed up. That can be fixed up. I need a little bit more, of this instrument, or need a little bit more of this kind of tone, or I need to add, so they're always reassessing. It's like an artist as well. You're painting a picture, so every once in a while you should stand back from the picture, kind of distance yourself from it, just to see. Okay, I need to reassess. And are things going good here? Okay, am I back? Am I back? Sorry about that, guys. Okay. Okay, am I back? Am I back? Um, it seems like we had another internet service problem here. Um, Sorry about that. I'm not sure again why there's been so many problems in the past few days here. Let me just go into YouTube and see what I missed. Um, because when this happens, my internet streaming software just completely reset, so I don't get any of your comments. Okay. Uh, okay. Looks like we're back now. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know. All of a sudden, everything just froze, and I got a notification the internet service was cut out here. So I'm not sure what's going on with the internet service in the past few days, but it seems like this has happened far too often in the past week. So um, hopefully, we don't see very much more of this kind of thing. Um, yeah, so getting back to what I was saying, I believe that Christians should always, Christians slash believers, any kind of Torah observant believer, uh, follower of Yeshua, should always be humble, always be willing to listen, always be willing to admit they could be wrong, but always be willing to reassess, to kind of stand back from the painting, so to speak, and reassess again. Like, and it, as a musician, might just listen to the recording again and just kind of critique yourself, critique your own doctrine. I think one of the greatest problems today in the church are Christians who just trust everything. They trust the pastor, they trust their denomination, the doctrine of their denomination. They just surrender to. It's almost like they treat their church, they treat their denomination like God, as if it's perfect. Um, and that's one of the biggest that's one of the problems that's facing the world today, especially in the realm of Christianity. All right, so all right, thank you for asking, Corey. It's a really good question. Just before I get to reading here, I want to make sure I didn't miss any other questions. All right. Okay, so okay, I got a problem here. For some reason, when this kind of thing happens, I have to kind of reset. I got to set up everything again. So okay, so the screen share, here we are. This is First Maccabees chapter 5. So we're going to be reading chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8, and that'll be our reading for tonight. So let's do it. First Maccabees chapter 5. It came to pass when the Gentiles all around heard that the altar had been rebuilt and the sanctuary dedicated as before, they were exceedingly angry. They took counsel to destroy the race of Jacob that was in the midst of them, and they began to kill and destroy among the people. Judas fought against the children of Esau in Idumea at Acrabatine because they besieged Israel. He struck them with a great slaughter, humbled them, and took their spoils. He remembered the wickedness of the children of Bain, or Bain, compare with 2 Maccabees 10, 18 to 23, who were a snare and a stumbling block to the people, lying in wait for them on highways. They were shut up by him in the towers. He encamped against them and destroyed them utterly, and burned with fire the towers of the place with all who were in. He passed over to the people of Ammon and found a mighty band and many people, with Timotheus for their leader. He fought many battles with them, and they were defeated before his face. He struck them and took possession of Yazer and its villages, and returned again into Judea. The Gentiles who were in Gilead gathered themselves together against the Israelites who were on their borders to destroy them. They fled to the stronghold of Dathema and sent letters to Judas and his kindred, saying, "The Gentiles who are around us are gathered together against us to destroy us. They are preparing to come and of the stronghold where we fled for refuge, and Timotheus is the leader of their army. Now therefore come and deliver us from their hand, for many of us have fallen, all our kindred who were in the land of Tubias." Again, it references here 2 Maccabees 12:17, "have been put to death. They have carried their wives, their children, and their stuff into captivity. They destroyed about 1,000 men there." While the letters were still being read, behold, other messengers came from Galilee with their clothes torn, bringing a similar report, saying, "People of Ptolemais, of Tyre, of Sidon, and all Galilee of the Gentiles have gathered together to destroy us." Now when Judas and the people heard these words, a great congregation assembled together to determine what they should do for their kindred who were in distress and under attack. Judas said to Simeon his brother, "Choose men and go deliver your kindred who are in Galilee, but Jonathan my brother and I will go into the land of Gilead." He left Joseph the son of Zacharias, the son of Azarias, as leaders of the people, with the remnant of the army in Judah to guard it. He commanded them, saying, "Take charge of this people and fight no battle with the Gentiles until we return." Then 3,000 men were assigned to go into Galilee with Simon, but 8,000 men were assigned to Judas to go into the land of Gilead. Simon went into Galilee and fought many battles with the Gentiles, and the Gentiles were defeated before him. He pursued them to the gate of Ptolemais. About 3,000 men of the Gentiles fell, and he took their spoils. They took to them those who were in Galilee and in Arbata with their wives, their children, and all that they had, and brought them into Judea with great gladness. Judas Maccabeus and his brother Jonathan passed over the Jordan and went 3 days' journey in the wilderness. They met with Nabatheans, and these met them in a peaceful manner and told them all things that had happened to their kindred in the land of Gilead, and how many of them were shut up in Bosor, Alamah, Casphor, Maked, and Carmaim. All these cities are strong and large, and how they were shut up in the rest of the cities of the land of Gilead, that tomorrow they plan to engage the strongholds and to take them and to destroy these men in one day. Judas and his army turned suddenly by the way of the wilderness to Basora, and he took the city and killed all the males with the edge of the sword, took all their spoils, and burned the city with fire. He left there at night and went until he came to the stronghold. When the morning came, they lifted up their eyes and saw many people who couldn't be counted, bearing ladders and engines of war to take the stronghold, and they were fighting against them. Judas saw that the battle had begun, and that the cry of the city went up to heaven with trumpets and a great sound, and he said to the men of his army, "Fight today for your kindred." Then he went out behind them in 3 companies. They sounded with their trumpets and cried out in prayer. And the army of Timotheus perceived that it was Maccabeus, and they fled before him. He struck them with a great slaughter. About 8,000 men of them fell on that day. He turned away to Mizpeh, and fought against it, took it, and killed all its males, took its spoils, and burned it with fire. From there he marched and took Casphor, Maked, Basor, and the other cities of the land of Gilead. Now, after these things, Timotheus gathered another army and encamped near Raphon, near or beyond the brook. Judas sent men to spy on the army, and they brought him word, saying, all the Gentiles who are around us are gathered together to them, an exceedingly great army. They have hired Arabians to help them, and are encamped beyond the brook, ready to come again against you to battle. So Judas went to meet them. Timotheus said to the captains of his army, when Judas and his army drew near to the brook of water, if he crosses over to us first, we won't be able to withstand him, for he will certainly defeat us. But if he is afraid and encamps beyond the river, we will cross over to him and defeat him. Now, when Judas came near to the water brook, he caused the scribes of the people to remain by the brook, and commanded them, saying, allow no man to encamp, but let all come to the battle. Then he crossed over the first against them, and all the people after him, and all the Gentiles were defeated before his face, and threw away their weapons, and fled to the temple at Carnaim. They took the city and burned the temple with fire, together with all who were in it. Carnaim was subdued. They couldn't stand any longer before the face of Judas. Judas gathered together all Israel, those who were in the land of Gilead, from the least to the greatest, with their wives, their children, and their stuff, an exceedingly great army, that they might come into the land of Judah. They came as far as Ephron, and this same city was large and very strong. It was on the road where they were going. They couldn't turn away from it on the right hand or on the left, but needed to pass through the middle of it. The people of the cities shut them out and blocked the gates with stones. Judas sent to them with words of peace, saying, we will pass through your land and go into our own land, and no one will harm you. We will only pass by on our own feet. But they wouldn't open to him. Then Judas commanded proclamation to be made in the army that each man should encamp in the place where he was. So the men of the army encamped and fought against the city all that day and all that night. And the city was delivered into his hands. He destroyed all the males with the edge of the sword, razed the city, took its plunder, and passed through the city over those who were slain. They went over the Jordan into the great plain near Bethshan. And Judas gathered together those who lagged behind and encouraged the people all the way through until he came into the land of Judah. They went up to Zion with gladness and joy and offered whole burnt offerings, because not so much as one of them was slain until they returned in peace. In the days when Judas and Jonathan were in the land of Gilead, and Simon his brother in Galilee before Ptolemais, Joseph the son of Zacharias and Azarias, rulers of the army, heard of their exploits and of the war and what things they had done. They said, let's also get us a name, and let's go fight against the Gentiles who are around us. So they gave orders to the men of the army that was with them, and went toward Jamnia. Georges and his men came out of the city to meet them in battle. Joseph and Azarias were put to flight and were pursued to the borders of Judea. About 2,000 men of Israel fell that day. There was a great overthrow among the people, because they didn't listen to Judas and his kindred, thinking to do some exploit. But they were not of the family of those men by whose hand deliverance was given to Israel. The man Judas and his kindred were glorified exceedingly in the sight of all Israel and all of the Gentiles, wherever their name was heard of. Men gathered together to them, acclaiming them. Judas and his kindred went out and fought against the children of Esau in the land toward the south. He struck Hebron and its villages, pulled down its strongholds, and burned its towers all around. He marched to go into the land of the Philistines, and he went through Samaria. In that day, certain priests desiring to do exploits there were slain in battle when they went out to battle unadvisedly. But Judas turned toward Azotus, to the land of the Philistines, pulled down their altars, burned the carved images or gods with fire, took the plunder of their cities, and returned into the land of Judah. First Maccabees chapter 6. King Antiochus was traveling through the upper countries, and he heard that in Elamis, in Persia, there was a city renowned for riches, for silver and gold, and that the temple which was in it was exceedingly rich, in that in it were golden shields, breastplates, and weapons which Alexander, the son of Philip, the Macedonian king who reigned first among the Greeks, left behind there. So he came and tried to take the city and to pillage it, but he was not able, because his plan was known to them of the city, and they rose up against him in battle. He fled and returned to Babylon with great disappointment. Then someone came into Persia, bringing him news that the armies which went against the land of Judah had been put to flight, and that Lysias went first with a strong army and was put to shame before them, and that they had grown strong because of weapons, power, and a supply of plunder which they took from the armies that they had cut off. And they had pulled down the abomination which had been built upon the altar that was in Jerusalem, and they had surrounded the sanctuary with high walls as before, and also Bethsura, his city. It came to pass, when the king heard these words, he was astonished and moved exceedingly. He laid himself down on his bed and fell sick for grief, because it had not turned out for him as he had planned. He was there many days, because great grief continually gripped him, and he realized that he would die. He called for all his friends and said to them, "Sleep departs from my eyes, and my heart fails because of worry. I said in my heart, to what suffering I have come. How great a flood it is that I am in now. For I was gracious and loved in my power. But now I remember the evils which I did at Jerusalem, and that I took all the vessels of silver and gold that were in it, and sent out to destroy the inhabitants of Judah without a cause. I perceive that it is because of this that these evils have come upon me. Behold, I am perishing through great grief in a strange land." Then he called for Philip, one of his friends, and set him over all his kingdom. He gave him his crown, his robe, and his signet ring, so that he could guide Antiochus his son and nourish him up that he might be king. Then King Antiochus died there in the 149th year. When Lysias learned that the king was dead, he sent up Antiochus his son to reign. He set up Antiochus his son to reign, whom he had nourished up being young, and he called his name Eupator. Those who were in the citadel kept hemming Israel in around the sanctuary, and always sought to harm them and to strengthen the Gentiles. Judas planned to destroy them and called all the people together to besiege them. They were gathered together and besieged them in the 150th year, and he made mounds to shoot from and engines of war. Some of those who were hemmed in came out, and some of the ungodly men of Israel were joined to them. They went to the king and said, "How long will you not execute judgment and avenge our kindred? We were willing to serve your father and to live by his words and to follow his commandments. Because of this, the children of our people besieged the citadel and were alienated from us. But as many of us as they could catch, they killed and plundered our inheritances. Not against us only did they stretch out their hand, but also against all their borders. Behold, they are encamped this day against the citadel at Jerusalem to take it. They have fortified the sanctuary at and Bethsura. If you don't quickly prevent them, they will do greater things than these, and you won't be able to control them. When the king heard this, he was angry and gathered together all his friends, the rulers of his army, and those who were over the cavalry. Bands of hired soldiers came to him from other kingdoms and from islands of the sea. The number of his forces was 100,000 infantry and 20,000 cavalry and 32 elephants trained for war. They went through Idumea and encamped against Bethsura and fought against it many days and made engines of war. The Jews came out and burned them with fire and fought valiantly. Judas marched away from the citadel and encamped at Beth Zacharias, near the king's camp. The king rose early in the morning and marched his army at full speed along the road to Beth Zacharias. His forces made ready to battle and sounded their trumpets. They offered the elephants the juice of grapes and mulberries that they might prepare them for the battle. They distributed the animals among the phalanxes. They set up each elephant they set by each elephant 1,000 men armed with coats of mail and helmets of brass on their heads. 500 chosen cavalry were appointed for each elephant. These were ready beforehand. Wherever the elephant was, wherever the elephant went, they went with it. They didn't leave it. Strong covered wooden towers were upon them, one upon each elephant, fastened upon it with secure harnesses. Once each were, upon each were 4 valiant men who fought upon them, beside his Indian driver. The rest of the cavalry he set on this side and that side on the 2 flanks of the army, striking terror into the army and protected by the phalanxes. Now, when the sun shone upon the shields of gold and brass, the mountains lit up and blazed like flaming torches. A part of the king's army was spread upon the high hills, and some on the low ground, and they went on firmly and in order. All who heard the noise of their multitude, the marching of the multitude, and the rattling of the weapons trembled. For the army was exceedingly great and strong. Judas and his army drew near for battle, and 600 men of the king's army fell. Eleazar, who was called Avaron, saw one of the animals armed with royal breastplates, and it was taller than all the animals, and the king seemed to be on it. He gave his life to deliver his people and to get himself an everlasting name. He ran upon him courageously into the midst of the phalanx, and killed on the right hand and on the left, and they parted away from him on this side and on that. He crept under the elephant and stabbed it from beneath and killed it. The elephant fell to the earth upon him, and he died there. They saw the strength of the kingdom and the fierce attack of the army and turned away from them. But the soldiers of the king's army went up to Jerusalem to meet them, and the king encamped toward Judea and toward Mount Zion. He made peace with the people of Bethsura. He came out of the city because they had no food there to endure the siege, because it was a Sabbath to the land. The king took Bethsura and appointed a garrison there to keep it. He encamped against the sanctuary many days and set there mounds to shoot from, and engines of war, and machines for throwing fire and stones, and weapons to throw darts and slings. The Jews also made engines of war against the engines, and and fought for many days. But there was no food in the sanctuary, because it was the seventh year, and those who fled for safety into Judea, found among the Gentiles, had eaten up the rest of the stones. From among the Gentiles had eaten up the rest of the stores. Excuse me. Um, there were only a few people left in the sanctuary because the famine prevailed against them, and they were scattered, each man to his own place. Lysias heard that Philip, whom Antiochus the king, while appointed to raise his son Antiochus to be king, had returned from Persia and Media, and with him the forces that went with the king, and that he was seeking to take control of the government. He made haste and gave orders to depart. He said to the king and the leaders of the army and to the men, "We get weaker daily. Our food is scant. The place where we encamp is strong, and the affairs of the kingdom lie upon us. Now, therefore, let's negotiate with these men and make peace with them and with all their nation, and covenant with them, that they may walk after their own laws as before. For because of their laws, which we abolished, they were angered and did all these things." The speech pleased the king and the princes, and he sent them to make peace, and they accepted it. The king and the princes swore to them. On these conditions, they came out from the stronghold. Then the king entered into Mount Zion. He saw the strength of the place and broke the oath which he had sworn, and gave orders to pull down the wall all around. Then he left in haste and returned to Antioch, and found Philip master of the city. He fought against him and took the city by force. 1 Maccabees chapter 7. In the 151st year, Demetrius, the son of Seleucus, came out of Rome and went up with a few men to a city by the sea and reigned there. It came to pass, when he would go into the house of the kingdom of his fathers, that the army laid hands on Antiochus and Lysias to bring them to him. The thing became known to him, and he said, "Don't show me their faces." So the army killed them. Then Demetrius sat upon the throne of his kingdom. All the lawless and ungodly men of Israel came to him. Alcimus was their leader, desiring to be high priest. They accused the people to the king, saying, "Judas and his kindred have destroyed all your friends and have scattered us from our own land. Now, therefore, send a man whom you trust, and let him go and see all the destruction which he has brought on us and the king's country, and how he has punished them and all who help them." So the king chose Bacchides, one of the king's friends, who was ruler in the country beyond the river, and was a great man in the kingdom and faithful to the king. He sent and that ungodly Alcimus, whom he made the high priest, and he commanded him to take vengeance upon the children of Israel. They marched away and came with a great army into the land of Judah. He sent messengers to Judas and his kindred with words of peace deceitfully. They paid no attention to their words, for they saw that they had come with a great army. A group of scribes gathered together to Alcimus and Bacchides to seek just terms. The Hasideans, or the Hasidim, were the first among the children of Israel who sought peace from them. For they said, "One who is a priest of the seed of Aaron has come with the army, and he will do us no wrong. He spoke with them words of peace and swore to them, saying, "We won't seek to harm you or your friends." They trusted him. Then they seized 60 men of them and killed them in one day, according to the word which was written. The flesh of your saints and the blood was shed all around Jerusalem, and there was no one to bury them. The fear and the dread of them fell upon all the people, for they said, "There is neither truth nor justice in them, for they have broken the covenant and the oath which they swore." Maccabees withdrew from Jerusalem and encamped at Bezath. He sent and seized many of the deserters who were with him, and some of the people, and he killed them, throwing them into a large pit. And he placed Alchemus in charge of the country, and left with him a force to aid him. Then Maccabees went away to the king. Alchemus struggled to maintain his priesthood. All those who troubled their people joined him, and they took control of the land of Judah and did great damage to Israel. Judah saw all the wrongs that Alchemus and his company had done among the children of Israel, even more than the Gentiles. He went out into all the borders of Judea and took vengeance on the men who had deserted from him, and they were restrained from going out into the country. But when Alchemus saw that Judas and his company had grown strong, and knew that he was not able to withstand them, he returned to the king and brought evil accusations against them. Then the king sent Nicanor, one of his honorable princes, a man who hated Israel and was their enemy, and commanded him to destroy the people. Nicanor came to Jerusalem with a great army. He sent to Judas and his kindred deceitfully with words of peace, saying, "Let there be no battle between me and you. I will come with a few men, that I may see you in peace." He came to Judas, and they saluted one another peaceably. The enemies were ready to seize Judas by violence. This was known to Judas, that he came to him with deceit, and he was very afraid of him, and would see his face no more. Nicanor found out that his plan was disclosed, and he went out to meet Judas in battle beside Caspharsalam. About 500 men of Nicanor's army fell, and the rest fled into the city of David. After these things, Nicanor went up to Mount Zion. Some of the priests came out of the sanctuary with some of the elders of the people to salute him peaceably and to show him the whole burnt sacrifice that was being offered for the king. He mocked them, laughed at them, derided them shamefully, spoke arrogantly, and swore, saying, "Unless Judas and his army are now delivered into my hands, it shall be that if I return safely, I will burn up this house." And he went out in a great rage. The priests entered in and stood before the altar and the temple, and they wept and said, "You chose this house to be called by your name, to be a house of prayer and supplication for your people. Take vengeance on this man and his army, and let them fall by the sword. Remember their blasphemies, and don't allow them to live any longer." Then Nicanor went out from Jerusalem and encamped at Beth-horon, and there the Syrian army met him. Judas encamped in Adasa with 3,000 men. Judas prayed and said, "When those who came from the king blasphemed, your angel went out and struck among them 185,000. Even so, crush this army before us today, and let all of the rest know that he has spoken wickedly against your sanctuary. Judge him according to his wickedness." On the 13th day of the month Adar, the armies met in battle. Nicanor's army was defeated, and he himself was the first to fall in battle. Now, when his army saw that Nicanor had fallen, they threw away their weapons and fled. They pursued them a day's journey from Adasa until you come to Gazara, and they sounded an alarm after them with the signal trumpets. Men came out of all the surrounding villages of Judea and outflanked them. These turned them back on those, and they all fell by the sword. There one of them left. The Jews took the spoils and the booty, and they cut off Nicanor's head and his right hand, which he had stretched out so arrogantly, and brought them and hung them up beside Jerusalem. The people were exceedingly glad, and they kept that day as a day of great gladness. They ordained to keep this day year by year on the 13th day of Adar. So the land of Judah had rest a few days. 1 Maccabees chapter 8. Judas heard of the fame of the Romans, that they are valiant men and have pleasure in all who join themselves to them, and make friends with all who come to them, and that they are valiant men. They told him of their wars and exploits which they do among the Gauls, and how they conquered them and forced them to pay tribute, and what things they did in the land of Spain, that they might take control of the silver and gold mines which were there, and how by their policy and persistence they conquered all the place. And the place was exceedingly far from them. And the kings who came against them from the uttermost parts of the earth until they had defeated them and struck them severely, and how the rest give them tribute year by year. Philip and Perseus, king of Kittim, and those who lifted up themselves against them, they defeated in battle and conquered them. Antiochus also, the great king of Asia, came against them to battle, having 120 elephants with cavalry, chariots, and an exceedingly great army, and he was defeated by them. They took him alive and decreed that both he and those who reigned after him should give them a great tribute, and should give hostages and a parcel of land from the best of their provinces, the countries of India and Lydia. They took them from him and gave them to King Eumenes. Judas heard how the Greeks planned to come and destroy them. But this became known to them, and they sent against them a general who fought against them, and many of them fell down wounded to death. And they made captive their wives and their children, and plundered them, and conquered their land, and pulled down their strongholds, and plundered them, and brought them into bondage to this day. The remaining kingdoms and islands, as many as rose up against them at any time, they destroyed, and made them to be their servants. But with their friends and those who relied on them, they stayed friends. They conquered the kingdoms that were near and those who were far off, and all that heard of their fame were afraid of them. Moreover, whoever they desired to help and to make kings, these they make kings, and whoever they desired, they depose. They are exalted exceedingly. For all this, none of them ever put on a crown, neither did they clothe themselves with purple as a display of grandeur. Judas heard how they had made for themselves a senate house, and day by day 320 men sat in council, consulting ways always for the people, to the end that they might be well governed, and how they commit their government to one man year by year, that he should rule over them and control all their country, and all are obedient to that one, and there is neither envy nor emulation among them. So Judas chose Eupal- Eupalemos, the son of John, the son of Achos, and Jason, the son of Eleazar, and sent them to Rome to establish friendship and alliance with them, and that they should free the yoke from among themselves, for they saw that the kingdom of the Greeks kept Israel in bondage. Then they went to Rome, a very long journey, and they entered into the Senate house and said, Judas, who is also called Maccabees, and his kindred, and the people of the Jews have sent us to you to make an alliance and peace with you, that we might be registered as your allies and friends. Just a second here. This thing was pleasing to them. This is the copy of the writing which they wrote back again on the tables of brass and sent to Jerusalem, that it might be with them there for a memorial of peace and alliance. Good success be to the Romans and to the nation of the Jews by sea and by land forever. May the sword and the be far from them. But if war arises for Rome first, or any of their allies in all their dominion, the nation of the Jews shall help them as allies, as the occasion shall indicate to them with all their heart. To those who war upon them, they shall not give supplies, food, weapons, money, or ships, as it has seemed good to Rome, and they shall keep their ordinances without taking anything in return. In the same way, moreover, if war comes first upon the nation of the Jews, the Romans shall willingly help them as allies, as the occasion shall indicate to them. And to those who are fighting with them, there shall not be given food, weapons, money, or ships, as it has seemed good to Rome. They shall keep these ordinances, and that without deceit, according to these terms. The Romans made a treaty with the according to these terms, the Romans made a treaty with the Jewish people. But if, however, the one party and the other shall determine to add or diminish anything, they shall do it at their pleasure, and whatever they add or take away shall be ratified. Concerning the evils which King Demetrius is doing to them, we have written to him, saying, Why have you made your yoke heavy on our friends and allies, the Jews? If therefore they plead any more against you, we will do them justice and fight with you on sea and on land. All right, all right. So that concludes our reading for tonight. All right, so let's see what else we have here. Yes, Vinny says if you don't step back from your painting things, from your painting, things get out of proportion. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Jordan says, "Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom, Jordan. Good to see you. Hope all is well." All right. Okay. Doesn't seem like we. If you have, just before I close here, just one last chance. If you have any other questions or comments, please drop them in the live chat. Um, just to say as well, a quick reminder, we will have this coming Sunday. All right, we will have um, Bible scholar and professor Dr. James Tabor with us. Okay. Lord willing, this will be Sunday, August 7th at 1 p.m. That's Sunday, August 7th at 1 p.m. We're going to be talking about the Apostle Paul. Really looking forward to that. So make sure you have that on your calendar. Make sure you let your friends and family members know, anybody that might be interested in watching and learning a few things. So that's what we're going to do. Andrew says, what happens if a person becomes a Christian but then lives in sexual sin for years and dies? What happens? So, according to Ezekiel chapter 18, if you were righteous and then you turn to sin, none of your righteousness will be counted for you. Sexual sin is certainly not righteous, and so no righteousness will be imputed at all. And so that person will unfortunately have a very rude awakening, or maybe not even an awakening, but have a very rude, a very unpleasant surprise. Let me just say that, according to the scriptures. Okay. I'm answering this question in a very simplistic way. So I know there are many different factors and many different scenarios that could, you can throw into the mix, and and thus, I just want to keep it as simple as possible. So, answering your question in a very simple way, generically speaking, is wouldn't be good news for that person. It wouldn't be good news for that person. On the other hand, if a wicked person, according to Ezekiel chapter 18, if a wicked person turns from his wickedness and starts doing what is right, then none of the wickedness that he has done in the past will be remembered against him. So it's like completely wipe the slate clean just because he changed. So yes, very good question, Andrew. Again, thank you for asking. The Tower Time says, shalom and howdy, all brothers and sisters. Bless y'all. Shalom and howdy, the Tower Time. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. And just to get back with, I'm not sure if Tammy, if you're still listening as well, just get back with you as well. Last night we were talking about your testimony. I am working on that. I listened to part of it last night, and Lord willing, I'll be listening to a lot more tonight. So yes, sounds like a lot of been through a lot, that's for sure. And a lot of us have some really have been through a lot of things. So it's very interesting, Tammy. I'm going to be making some time for it tonight as well, listening to. So hopefully I can finish that very soon. All right. So Jordan said, hope we'll be able to catch up soon. I've been disgusted by a lot of what I see from social media, mostly in people's behavior. Yeah. I find that, and with different social media platforms, I find that YouTube is milder compared to some of the other platforms out there. Some people can get really, really unreasonable, and sometimes I wonder if they're just unreasonable because they just don't understand, or they don't have the capacity to do that, or whether they're just doing that on purpose. Tammy says, "Thank you. It really is truly freeing. I've carried this for a long time, and it has tormented me for a long time." Yeah, yeah. I, I heard it was video two. I think you said it was video two. Some of that was, I think you kind of the internet connection there kind of broke out there as well. So I caught some of that, um, and working on three tonight. So yeah. Okay, so Billy asked the question, "What years are the Maccabees taking place?" I believe that's the third. Just want to double check here. Third century BCE, second century. Sorry, second century. Yeah, second century BCE. That would have been. It sounds very historical. Like the all of the Maccabee books sound very historical, and like I said, I'm looking. You know what I'm going to do, regardless of where it fits in the timeline. After First Maccabees, I'm going to read Four Maccabees, just because it's another part of the Maccabees, and because it's just so awesome. It's so awesome. I don't want to really kind of skip into another book and then come back to Four Maccabees. I might as well just finish up the Maccabee books with Four Maccabees after First Maccabees, and get that over with. I'm really looking forward to it. I know you guys, you probably heard me say that many, many times, but I'm looking forward to Fourth Maccabees, because I believe that the lessons that can be learned there are absolutely revolutionary. I mean, to me, it speaks volumes to me, the lessons and the wisdom that we can glean from Four Maccabees, and I'll explain all that when I get to it. I'll share everything um, that has blessed me, and hopefully it'll bless you as much as it has blessed me. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. I know it's a little bit of an early night, but I'll wrap it up for tonight anyway. And so tomorrow we will we'll continue on with first Maccabees. So it appears to be, just to give you guys a little bit of an outlook. Tomorrow will be first Maccabees 9, 10, 11, 12. 9, 10, 11, 12. Wednesday will be 13, 14, 15, 16. Thursday, we're going to get into Four Maccabees. Now, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it'll probably take a few days to get into Four Maccabees. I believe it's like, what is it, 18 chapters or something like that? Let me have a look at this. Yeah, it's 18 chapters. 18 chapters. So it's going to take more than one evening to go through. But we'll probably go through. We'll probably be reading Four Maccabees right up into the weekend, and I think it'll be a great prelude into Dr. James Tabor, because one of the greatest lessons, that one of the greatest nuggets of gold, you can say, from Four Maccabees, is got to do with more of a scholarly tone on the scriptures. I'll get into all that stuff when we get there. So I don't want to really, I don't want to steal the thunder before we get there. Okay, so we'll get there. That'll be Thursday, right? I said Thursday. Yeah. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We'll be reading Four Maccabees. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so once again, guys, thanks again for joining me. Thanks again for your questions and your comments, and we need to pray for. I know, listening to Tammy's um, testimony there last night. We know that some of the brothers and sisters there were praying for the internet connection. We should pray for this internet connection. It seems like we had a few dropouts. One tonight, and a couple earlier in the week or last week. So something is not normal. I'm not sure what's going on. So, but anyway, pray that everything will be smooth, especially when we have James Tabor on for us. And I appreciate it. Appreciate all you guys. You guys are awesome. You guys are world changers. So keep on plugging on, and pursuing God. As I always said in my old videos, call upon him and he will show you great and mighty things. I've experienced that, and it's just an awesome, awesome thing. Call upon him and he will show you great and mighty things. It's like a father just delights to show some just wonderful, fun things to his children. Yeah. Okay. Tower Time says, thanks for sharing, Brother Christopher, and thanks for the fellowship. Y'all stay blessed. Thank you very much, Tower Time. Blessings multiplied back to you, brother. Tammy says, have a wonderful night, all. You too, Tammy, you and yours. Blessings, blessings, blessings. Vinny says, thank you, Christopher. Many blessings to everyone. Shalom. Thank you very much. Blessings multiplied back to you as well. All right. Yeah. Okay. So thanks again, guys. I will talk to you. We'll, see you again tomorrow, Lord willing, 7 p.m. Eastern. And as always, I pray for each and every one of you that the Lord bless you and keep you, make his face to shine upon you, lift up his countenance upon you, and give you wonderful, wonderful shalom. Amen. Amen. See you tomorrow night.